Before you rush through another day, spending quarters without a second thought, pause for just a moment, because hidden inside the coins you've carried for years, inside the change lying at the bottom of your drawer, inside the quarter that might be sitting right now in your pocket, could be one of the most shocking state quarters ever minted. These are coins that slipped quietly into circulation, unnoticed by millions. Yet today, collectors hunt them like buried treasure. Some have minting flaws so rare that only a handful exist. Some were struck in tiny quantities that disappeared before the public even realized. And some look so normal that you could easily spend one worth hundreds or even thousands without knowing. In this video, we're revealing the top 3 U.S. state quarters that turn an ordinary 25-cent piece into a story of mystery, value, and unbelievable discovery. Stay locked in, because the number 1 quarter will make you check every single coin you touch for the rest of your life. The history of the 1979 $1 coin begins with a major change in American coinage design, marking the first time in United States history that a woman appeared on a circulating coin. The Susan B. Anthony dollar was introduced in 1979 as part of a government effort to replace the paper $1 bill with a more durable metal coin. The coin was named in honor of Susan B. Anthony, a famous women's rights activist who fought tirelessly for women's suffrage during the 19th century, and played a major role in the movement that eventually led to the 19th Amendment, granting women the right to vote. The idea for a smaller dollar coin had been discussed for years, as the Eisenhower dollar issued from 1971 to 1978 was large, heavy, and unpopular in daily circulation. The United States Mint sought to create a coin that would be easier to carry and more convenient to use in vending machines. So in 1979, the Mint introduced the new smaller-sized dollar coin, featuring Anthony's portrait on the obverse designed by chief engraver Frank Gasparro. The reverse carried the same design as the Eisenhower dollar, showing the Apollo 11 insignia with an eagle landing on the moon, clutching an olive branch. The coin was composed of copper nickel-clad, similar to quarters and half dollars. The Susan B. Anthony dollar was minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and it bore the mint marks P, D, and S, respectively. The Philadelphia coins are marked with a P mint mark for the first time in U.S. history, as coins from that mint previously carried no mark when it was released. The Susan B. Anthony dollar faced immediate criticism. The public found it too similar in size, color, and edge to the quarter dollar, making it confusing in everyday transactions. Many people accidentally used it as a quarter or refused to accept it in stores. As a result, circulation was extremely low, and the government's attempt to replace the dollar bill failed. Despite its initial intent to modernize currency, the coin became one of the least successful U.S. coins in circulation history. Over 750 million coins were minted in 1979, but very few entered daily use. The coin's design, though symbolically important to the women's movement, was overshadowed by its practical flaws. Vending machines and transit systems slowly adapted to use it, but most Americans preferred paper bills. The Mint continued limited production in 1980 and 1981 mainly for collector sets, after which the coin was discontinued for nearly 2 decades. It briefly returned in 1999 due to a shortage of dollar coins before being permanently replaced in 2000 by the golden Sacagawea dollar, which addressed many of the Anthony coin's issues by using a distinct gold color and smooth edge. The Susan B. Anthony dollar remains a notable chapter in American numismatic history. It represents a key moment when the United States government sought to balance efficiency, progress, and symbolism. The coin honors one of the most important figures in American social reform history. Even though it failed commercially, collectors today seek out certain 1979 varieties, the most notable being the 1979 P-wide rim or near-date version, which features a thicker rim and closer date spacing, making it more valuable than the common narrow rim variety. Proofs from San Francisco also attract interest among collectors. The introduction of the Susan B. Anthony dollar reflected a shift in cultural values during the late 20th century as the nation became more conscious of gender equality and the role of women in shaping American society. Though unpopular in use, its legacy endures through its symbolism and its influence on later dollar coin designs. It also serves as a lesson in how design, size, and public perception can determine the success or failure of a circulating coin. The 1979 $1 coin stands as both a tribute to a great reformer and a reminder of the challenges involved in changing long-standing public habits toward money. It was an ambitious attempt to modernize America's currency system and to honor social progress, and while it did not achieve its intended circulation success, it remains a collectible and historically significant coin that captures the spirit of its time. The Susan B. Anthony dollar remains a fascinating symbol of the late 1970s era of innovation, government experimentation, and recognition of women's achievements, marking a powerful intersection of history, politics, and design. The 1979 $1 coin, also known as the Susan B. Anthony dollar, was created during a period when the United States government was searching for ways to reduce the cost of producing and maintaining paper currency. By the late 1970s, $1 bills had a very short lifespan, often wearing out within 2 years. Coins, by contrast, could last decades before needing replacement. Congress and the Treasury Department believed that introducing a smaller dollar coin would save millions of dollars. In printing costs over time, the success of similar coins in other countries, such as the Canadian dollar coin, inspired the idea to introduce a small-sized metal dollar in America. However, unlike other nations where coin transitions were widely accepted, the American public was deeply attached to the paper dollar and reluctant to change. The decision to feature Susan B. Anthony on the coin came after years of debate over who should be represented. The mint wanted a design that symbolized liberty, equality, and modern American values. Many proposed figures were discussed, including Eleanor Roosevelt and Betsy Ross. But Anthony was ultimately chosen for her lasting influence on women's rights. Her selection was groundbreaking. It marked the first time a real woman, rather than a symbolic figure like Lady Liberty, was honored on a U.S. circulating coin. The design process involved several sketches and models chief engraver Frank Gasparo had previously designed. The Eisenhower dollar, and was tasked with adapting his existing design to the smaller coin. The portrait of Anthony was based on a well-known photograph showing her in her later years, with a stern but dignified expression symbolizing determination and strength. Gasparo's design on the reverse continued the Apollo 11 lunar landing theme, connecting the coin to American innovation and exploration. When the Susan B. Anthony dollar entered circulation on July 2, 1979, it was promoted as a modern coin. For a modern America, advertisements and news campaigns highlighted its convenience and its tribute to a national heroine. But problems emerged almost immediately. Banks received large quantities, but few customers wanted them. Cashiers and shoppers confused them with quarters, and businesses often refused them in transactions. Despite its unpopularity, the mint produced hundreds of millions of coins, anticipating demand that never materialized. The Treasury ended up storing millions in vaults. As the years went on, it became clear that the Susan B. Anthony dollar would not replace the paper dollar. The government even studied public reactions and found that size, color, and familiarity played key roles in people's resistance. The coin's similarity to the quarter, both in weight and appearance, made it impractical for daily use. Many vending machines also had to be modified to accept it, adding to the costs. Its failure was so significant that the mint halted production after 1981, except for special collector's issues. Yet the coin had some circulation success in specific sectors. Public transit systems, such as those in New York and Washington, D.C., found the dollar coin useful because their machines could be easily adjusted to accept it. Post offices and military bases also used it frequently during the 1980s and 1990s, even as the public continued to prefer paper currency. The history of the United States quarter-dollar coin from the year 2020 is a fascinating journey into the world of American numismatics. The year 2020 marked an important continuation of the America the Beautiful Quarters program, a series that began in 2010 and celebrated the natural beauty and historical significance of sites across the nation. Each quarter released under this program featured a unique design on the reverse side, representing a national park or monument, while the obverse continued to display the familiar portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan in 1932, based on a bust by Jean-Antoine Houdon. In 2020, the United States Mint released 5 distinct quarters each, highlighting a special site that reflects the cultural, natural, and historical richness of the United States. These coins are part of the final stages of the America the Beautiful series and were eagerly anticipated by collectors and history enthusiasts alike. The first quarter, released in 2020, was the National Park of American Samoa. Quarter issued in February, this design featured a striking image of a Samoan fruit bat mother hanging upside down with her pup, symbolizing the unique wildlife and conservation efforts of the park. It was the first United States coin to depict a fruit bat and served as a reminder of the importance of preserving endangered species. The design, by Richard Masters and sculpted by Phoebe Hemphill, carried deep environmental and cultural meaning, emphasizing the interconnectedness of life in the Pacific Islands. The second quarter of 2020 was dedicated to Weir Farm National Historic Site in Connecticut. Issued in April, Weir Farm is known as the home and studio of the American Impressionist painter Julian Alden Weir and represents the only national park dedicated to American painting. The coin's reverse, designed by Justin Kuntz and sculpted by Phoebe Hemphill, featured an artist painting at an easel outside Weir's home, capturing the spirit of creativity and the beauty of artistic inspiration. It symbolized how art and nature intertwine within American heritage. The third quarter of the year 2020 honored Salt River Bay National Historical Park and Ecological Preserve, located in the U.S. Virgin Islands, issued in June. The design, by Richard Masters and sculpted by Joseph Mena, depicted a red mangrove tree growing in the bay's water. With its roots visible below the surface, this design celebrated the resilience of the ecosystem and the rich cultural history of the Virgin Islands, particularly the early indigenous peoples who inhabited the area. It also served as a visual metaphor for growth, strength, and renewal in the face of challenges. The fourth quarter, released in 2020, represented the Marsh-Billings Rockefeller National Historical Park in Vermont, issued in August. This design, by Donna Weaver and sculpted by Michael Gaudioso, depicted a young girl planting a tree, symbolizing the conservationist spirit and the ongoing stewardship of natural resources. The park itself tells the story of conservation history in America, inspired by the pioneering work of George Perkins Marsh and Frederick Billings. The coin's imagery was a call to care for the environment for future generations, tying deeply into the ideals of sustainability and responsibility. The final quarter of 2020 featured Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve. Located in Kansas, issued in November, the design, by Emily Damstra and sculpted by Renata Gordon, depicted a regal fritillary butterfly flying above a field of tall grass. It captured the beauty of the prairies and the biodiversity of one of the most endangered ecosystems in North America. The coin served as a tribute to both the landscape and the wildlife that depend on it, reminding Americans of the importance of protecting their natural heritage. All 5 2020 quarters continued the America the Beautiful series with the same obverse design featuring George Washington, his portrait facing left with inscriptions, "Liberty in God We Trust," and $quarter. The obverse was slightly modified in 2021 to mark the end of the series, but in 2020 it still retained the classic design that had appeared on quarters since 1932. Though the minting techniques had evolved to produce sharper details and more refined finishes. The 2020 quarters were struck at 3 major United States mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia and Denver mints produced coins for circulation, while the San Francisco Mint produced proof and silver-proof versions for collectors. Each mint mark, P, D, or S, carried its own appeal among numismatists. In addition to the regular issues, there were also special coin sets, including uncirculated sets, silver-proof sets, and 5-ounce silver bullion coins, known as America the Beautiful 5-ounce silver coins. These large versions mirrored the quarter designs but in a grander format that appealed to investors and collectors alike. The year 2020 also held special significance because it marked the 10th anniversary of the America the Beautiful Quarters program. Collectors viewed these coins as part of a legacy that had showcased 56 national parks and sites across all states, the District of Columbia, and U.S. territories. The series had not only celebrated American geography, but also strengthened national pride through artistry and education. In the broader context of history, 2020 was a turbulent year marked by the global pandemic, which influenced the minting and distribution of coins across the United States. The U.S. Mint faced production slowdowns and a temporary coin shortage as the economy adjusted to new challenges. This made some 2020 quarters less common in circulation during that period, adding to their intrigue for collectors. Many Americans first noticed these quarters as symbols of resilience and continuity during uncertain times. Collectors value the 2020 quarters not only for their artistry, but also for their historical significance. The combination of environmental themes, artistic heritage, and cultural preservation makes them some of the most meaningful issues of the entire series. Some error coins, such as those with die cracks or misstrikes from the Philadelphia and Denver mints, have become especially sought after over time, further fueling the fascination with these modern coins. In summary, the U.S. quarter-dollar coins of 2020 represent more than just currency. They tell the story of America's natural beauty, its creative spirit, its environmental awareness, and its perseverance during a challenging year through the designs of National Park of American Samoa, Weir Farm, Salt River Bay, Marsh Billings, Rockefeller, and Tallgrass Prairie. The 2020 quarters form a narrative of unity and reverence for both people and planet. Their intricate artwork, their careful production, and their symbolic meaning make them a cherished chapter in the long and proud history of the United States quarter-dollar coin, and as time passes, they will continue to stand as enduring reminders of the values and landscapes that define America. The story of the 2020 United States quarter-dollar coins extends far beyond their designs and mintage. It is a chapter deeply woven into the broader legacy of American coinage art culture and national identity. The 2020 quarters marked one of the final years of the ambitious America the Beautiful Quarters program, which began in 2010 and concluded in 2021. This series was inspired by the earlier success of the 50-state quarters program that ran from 1999 to 2008. A project that transformed how Americans viewed their change by connecting it with history education and regional pride. After the state quarters ended, the America the Beautiful series was introduced to highlight the beauty and significance of national parks and other historic sites across the United States and its territories. The history of the United States quarter-dollar coin 2001 is deeply tied to the ongoing 50-state quarters program launched by the United States Mint in 1999, which became one of the most successful coin programs in American history. The year 2001 marked the third year of this iconic program and featured quarters representing 5 states: New York, North Carolina, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Kentucky. Each of these quarters carried its own story, history and symbolism reflecting the pride and identity of each state and showing how America's coinage can serve as a living record of the nation's heritage, culture, and geography. The quarter dollar itself has a long lineage dating back to the late 18th century, when the Coinage Act of 1792 established the denomination as one of the foundational coins of the U.S. monetary system. Initially composed of silver, the quarter went through several design and composition changes across more than 2 centuries. before reaching the modern era of commemorative issues. By the time the 50-state quarters program began, the quarter had become the most commonly circulated coin in America, cherished both by collectors and the general public. The 2001 quarters represented a moment of national pride as each design brought new artistry and storytelling to the nation's coinage. Beginning with the New York quarter released in January 2001, the design honored New York as the Empire State, featuring the Statue of Liberty rising in front of an outline of the state and 11 stars symbolizing its entry as the 11th state to ratify the Constitution. The design also included a line tracing the Hudson River and Erie Canal, representing the vital role these waterways played in shaping the economic and cultural growth of New York. The quarter's motto, "Gateway to Freedom," captured New York's role as a beacon for immigrants and as a symbol of liberty. The North Carolina quarter, released in March 2001, celebrated one of the greatest milestones in human achievement, the first flight by the Wright brothers in 1903 at Kitty Hawk. The design depicted Orville and Wilbur Wright's Wright Flyer lifting into the air, piloted by Orville, while Wilbur ran alongside, guiding the aircraft. The phrase "first flight" emphasized North Carolina's proud place in aviation history. This coin became one of the most popular of the series because of its universal appeal and the significance of human innovation. The Rhode Island quarter, released in May 2001, honored the ocean state with a design featuring a sailboat gliding under the Claiborne-Pell Bridge, also known as the Newport Bridge, with the Rhode Island shoreline in the background. The design captured Rhode Island's rich maritime heritage, its sailing culture, and its long association with freedom of religion and commerce. The Vermont quarter, issued in August 2001, paid tribute to the state's natural beauty and agricultural heritage. The design featured Camel's Hump Mountain, framed by maple trees being tapped for sap, symbolizing Vermont's world-renowned maple syrup industry. The image reflected both the rugged landscape and the hard-working spirit of Vermonters, as well as the importance of nature in the state's identity. The final quarter of 2001 represented Kentucky and was released in October. It depicted Federal Hill, the famous mansion that inspired the song. My Old Kentucky Home, surrounded by a horse and a fence, representing the state's legendary horse breeding traditions. The phrase, "My Old Kentucky Home," added a sentimental touch, linking the design to Kentucky's music and cultural heritage. Together, these 5 quarters from 2001 illustrated the incredible diversity of the United States and showed how each state contributes its own story to the national narrative. The designs were chosen through a public process involving state governors, citizens, and artists. The Mint worked closely with each state to ensure that the final artwork captured the spirit of the state while maintaining artistic integrity and clarity suitable for a small coin. The response from the public was overwhelming, with millions of Americans collecting these coins either from circulation or in special collector sets. The year 2001 also reflected the continuing evolution of U.S. coinage technology. The quarters were produced at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, bearing the respective P and D mint marks. Proof versions were also struck at the San Francisco Mint with an S mint mark and were available in both clad and silver compositions. These proof coins were highly sought after by collectors for their mirror-like finish and sharp details. The Mint's use of modern minting equipment allowed for unprecedented consistency and quality in striking the detailed designs. The 50-state quarters program not only revived interest in coin collecting, but also had a significant cultural and educational impact across the country. Schools used the quarters to teach history, geography, and civics, while families across America joined in the hobby of finding and collecting each new release. The 2001 quarters played a crucial role in keeping this excitement alive. The introduction of these designs also helped spark broader discussions about how coinage could reflect the nation's shared values and diverse heritage. The designs of 2001 displayed themes of innovation, freedom, nature, and culture, all central to the American experience. Beyond their artistic appeal, the quarters of 2001 also had economic significance. By re-energizing public interest in coins, the program generated substantial seigniorage revenue for the U.S. government, as many people removed the quarters from circulation to keep as collectibles. This meant that billions of coins were minted, but a large portion never returned to circulation, adding profit to the treasury without inflationary effects. The impact of the 2001 quarters can also be seen in how they influenced later coin programs, such as the D.C. and U.S. Territories Quarters program, the America the Beautiful Quarters, and the American Women Quarters program, all of which followed the precedent of celebrating American places and achievements on circulating coinage. In retrospect, the 2001 quarters stand out for their blend of artistry, history, and symbolism, capturing moments that define the American spirit. From the flight of the Wright brothers to the serene beauty of Vermont's mountains, these coins turned everyday pocket change into miniature works of art and historical documents that millions could hold in their hands. The year 2001 thus remains a landmark chapter in the ongoing story of the U.S. quarter dollar, a story that continues to evolve as new designs honor the nation's journey through time and its ever-changing identity. The history of the United States quarter dollar coin in 2001 is part of a larger story that begins over 2 centuries earlier, when the U.S. Mint was established in 1792 and Congress authorized the production of silver coinage, including the quarter dollar. The very first quarters were struck in 1796 and designed by Robert Scott, the first chief engraver of the U.S. Mint. That early design featured liberty on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. The 1796 quarter was produced in very limited numbers, only a few thousand coins, which makes it one of the rarest early American coins ever minted. Throughout the 19th century, the quarter underwent several design changes reflecting the evolving artistic and political identity of the United States.